Ancient monuments are not silent. They speak in a language of stone and alignment, hiding urgent warnings for the modern world. This exploration uncovers 22 chilling messages deliberately encoded in the world's most famous ruins, secrets that force us to rewrite history and confront our own future. You will learn the true purpose behind structures like the Great Pyramid and the terrifying prophecies etched into forgotten temples. We will reveal why a giant stone army was built to fail and how a temple's walls predict cosmic cycles of destruction. These are not random carvings. They are a conversation across thousands of years about power, survival, and humanity's place in the cosmos. By the end, your understanding of human civilization will be fundamentally transformed. What do you believe ancient builders were trying to tell us? The stone gaze of the great Sphinx meets the dawn light with a purpose far deeper than mere observation. On the equinox, the sun rises directly along its line of sight, a perfect alignment that transforms this mythical guardian into a precise astronomical instrument. Its eastward fixation is no accident of artistry. It is a deliberate, frozen calculation. This has led some researchers, like geologist Robert Schoch, to a startling conclusion. The weathering patterns on the Sphinx's body suggest water erosion, the kind caused by thousands of years of heavy rainfall, a climate Egypt has not experienced since the end of the last ice age. This points to a construction date not of 4,500 years ago, but potentially more than 10,000. The chilling message is not just in its age, but in its function. It encodes a knowledge of celestial precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that shifts our view of the constellations over a vast 26,000-year cycle. The Sphinx, therefore, stands as a stone-based prophecy, a stark warning from a potentially lost civilization that our world is subject to cyclical time and catastrophic renewal. Its silent vigil asks us a profound question. If this line of stone holds the key to a forgotten calendar of global upheaval, what other monuments are waiting to reveal their own apocalyptic timetables? Far to the north, another monument whispers of a forgotten dawn. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, rings of massive T-shaped pillars rise from the hill, each one a canvas of intricate animal carvings. Foxes, cranes, scorpions, and vultures stare out from the stone, their forms etched with stunning precision over 12,000 years ago. This was a time officially recorded as the domain of simple hunter-gatherers, nomadic bands struggling for survival. Yet here is the world's oldest known temple, a project demanding organization, artistry, and a shared vision on a staggering scale. The animals are the key. They are not mere decorations. Archaeologist Klaus Schmidt believed these creatures formed a symbolic language, a complex belief system carved in stone for eternity. The choice of animals is deliberate and profound. Many of the species depicted, like the crane, are migratory, their movements tied to the seasons and the stars. This suggests the pillars themselves might be a stone-based calendar, a way of marking time and predicting celestial events. The chilling message of Göbekli Tepe is that sophisticated society did not evolve slowly from simple farming communities. It appears to have emerged fully formed from a much older, advanced culture, one that possessed profound knowledge and a unified spiritual vision. What could have spurred such a monumental effort? Many researchers point to a cataclysm known as the Younger Dryas, a sudden, brutal period of global cooling that lasted for over 1,000 years. The carvings could be a warning from survivors, a desperate attempt to encode the memory of an environmental collapse so devastating it reshaped the entire world. These pillars are a testament to a lost golden age, their animal guardians silently testifying to a world we barely understand: the fox, the scorpion, the vulture. Do these symbols echo in the mythologies that followed, passed down through generations as faint memories of a time when humanity itself was nearly erased? From the rolling hills of ancient Turkey, we travel to the barren plains of Peru, where the earth itself holds a message for the heavens. The Nazca Desert is a giant canvas, and sprawling across it are immense geoglyphs so vast they defy comprehension from the ground. A colossal spider, a hummingbird with wings outstretched, a monkey with a spiraling tail. These figures are etched into the rust-colored gravel, their lines forming perfect geometric shapes and miles-long trapezoids that stretch to the horizon. They were created by the Nazca culture, a people who flourished here between 500 years before the Common Era and 500 years after. For centuries, their purpose has been one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. Were they a complex astronomical calendar marking the movements of the sun and stars? Were they sacred pathways for ritual processions, walked by priests to commune with deities? The most unsettling message of the Nazca lines is not merely their artistic scale, but the fundamental question of their creation. How could a people without the ability to fly design and execute such precise, massive figures that only reveal their true form when viewed from high above? The lines are flawlessly straight, the curves of the animal figures perfectly proportioned, suggesting the Nazca possessed an advanced, almost unimaginable understanding of geometry and surveying. They would have had to plot these enormous designs using only stakes, ropes, and an inherited knowledge passed down through generations, working on a scale they themselves could never physically witness. This leads to a profound and chilling possibility. Did the Nazca have access to a lost technology of flight, perhaps primitive hot air balloons, to oversee their work? Or does their achievement point to a different kind of knowledge, a spiritual vision that allowed them to map the world from a god's eye view? Researcher Maria Reich devoted her life to protecting and studying these lines, and she proposed a theory that cuts to the heart of human survival. She believed the animal figures represented constellations, and the long lines were linked to water sources underground or to mountain deities that controlled the rain. In this light, the Nazca lines transform from mere art into a desperate, permanent prayer. They are a cry for help etched into the very skin of the planet, a monumental plea for the most precious resource in a desert: water. This reveals a stunning truth about human ingenuity in the face of environmental collapse. When survival is at stake, we will move mountains, or in this case, rearrange the surface of an entire desert to send a message to the gods. The lines are a testament to a civilization so concerned with its own endurance that it spent centuries carving its fears and hopes into the earth, creating a message so large it could only be read by the skies themselves. What does such a monumental effort tell us about the limits of human desperation and the lengths we will go to be heard? Their backs are turned to the vast, empty ocean, as if in defiance or profound disappointment. The massive stone Moai of Easter Island stand in silent rows, their blank eyes fixed upon the lands they once watched over. These are not merely statues. They are the final sentinels of a collapsed world. Carved from compressed volcanic ash and erected with staggering effort, each figure represented a powerful ancestor, a chief who could mediate between the living and the gods. But the island's true secret lies not only in these stone giants, but in the cryptic markings found on a handful of weathered wooden tablets. This is the Rongorongo script, a written language that has resisted all attempts at translation for centuries. Its glyphs, a mix of human figures, animals, and geometric shapes, are unlike any other writing system on Earth. Some researchers believe these tablets hold the island's entire history, genealogical records of the great clans, and the creation myths that guided their society. They are a library of a lost people, and we have lost the key to read it. The inability to decipher Rongo-Rongo is a tragedy in itself, for it means the final, first-hand account of this civilization remains forever silent. The chilling message of Easter Island, however, is one we can read plainly in the landscape itself. The society that possessed the sophistication to move 100-ton statues across miles of rugged terrain ultimately fell victim to its own success. In their fervor to honor their ancestors with ever larger moai, they engaged in a relentless competition that demanded immense resources. The entire island was once covered in a lush palm forest, an ecosystem that provided wood for rollers and ropes to transport the statues, as well as canoes for deep-sea fishing. But the trees were cut down faster than they could regrow. As the forest vanished, so did the means to move the moai and the ability to fish the open ocean. Society fractured into warring factions, and the very statues they had built to ensure prosperity were toppled by the descendants of their creators. The moai, therefore, are not just ancestral figures. They are grim monuments to a self-inflicted catastrophe, a stone-based warning about the ultimate cost of ignoring environmental limits. The silent giants and the unreadable script together tell a universal story of a people who achieved monumental greatness, only to become prisoners of their own ambition. Their world shrank to the horizon of their own island, and then it shrank further into starvation and conflict. How many other ancient scripts, still waiting to be understood, conceal similar tales of a brilliant rise and a preventable fall? The silent stones of Stonehenge hold more than just solar secrets. While the summer solstice sun famously rises over the heel stone, a more subtle dimension of the monument has only recently come to light, one that you could hear but never see. Archaeological experiments have revealed that many of the smaller blue stones, transported over great distances, possess a unique sonic property. When struck, they ring with a clear, metallic chime, a resonant tone that echoes between the massive sarsen pillars. This was no accidental quality. The builders specifically sourced these stones for their sound. The chilling implication is that Stonehenge was not merely a celestial calendar, but an ancient center for acoustic rituals. The entire structure might have functioned as a giant sound chamber, where rhythmic drumming, chanting, and the ringing of stones were used to create powerful auditory frequencies. These vibrations could induce altered states of consciousness, a form of sonic healing or spiritual gateway. This reveals a Neolithic understanding of psychoacoustics, the effect of sound on the human mind, that we are only beginning to appreciate today. The monument's message is not just written in the alignment of the sun, but in the very air between the stones. It speaks of a knowledge system where architecture, astronomy, and sound were woven together to touch the human spirit directly. If the silent stones of Easter Island warn of environmental collapse, the resonant stones of Stonehenge suggest a society that sought harmony, using the physics of vibration to heal and transcend. This forces us to reconsider every ancient sacred site. What other sensory experiences, what other lost technologies of sound and light were engineered into these places to guide human consciousness? The silence of ruins may be an illusion, masking a world that was once alive with purposeful, powerful sound. High above the jungle floor, the temple of Kukulkan casts a serpent's shadow. On the spring and autumn equinox, a precise play of light and geometry creates the illusion of a giant snake slithering down the pyramid's northern staircase. This was no mere spectacle. It was a public demonstration of the Maya's profound command over time itself. They were architects of the cosmos, and their structures were the gears of a celestial machine. Their most famous temporal device was the long count calendar, a complex cycle that captured global attention when it completed a major era on December 21, 2012. Popular culture screamed about an impending apocalypse, a prophecy of global doom, but the true message carved into their temples is far more profound and far more chilling. The end of the calendar did not signify a final destruction. It marked the necessary conclusion of a world age, a clearing away of the old to make space for the new. Inscriptions at ancient cities like Palenque and Tikal do not speak of ultimate endings. They detail the deaths and resurrections of gods, chronicling a universe that operates on a principle of cyclical renewal. The temples themselves are cosmic clocks, their alignments counting down not to an annihilation, but to a transformative new beginning. This philosophy of impermanent world ages is the chilling core of their legacy. They built not for a single civilization, but for the cycle itself, accepting that their own world, like all those before it, was destined to be transformed. This reframes their entire architectural achievement. The pyramids are not just tombs or altars. They are stone-based affirmations that collapse is a prelude to rebirth, a concept that echoes from the Sphinx's age to the fallen Moai. How many other cultures have looked at the stars and carved this same unsettling truth into their walls, reminding us that our time, too, is part of a much greater turning wheel? Deep within the Great Pyramid, the king's chamber holds a secret not in its stone sarcophagus, but in the narrow shafts piercing the walls. These are not air vents. One pair targets the circumpolar stars, those eternal sentinels that never set, while the other pair aligns perfectly with the stars of Orion's belt. This precise celestial targeting was the work of the Egyptologist Robert Bovell, who saw in this arrangement a stunning mirror of the heavens. His Orion correlation theory suggests the entire Giza Plateau is a terrestrial map of the night sky, with the three great pyramids representing the three stars of Orion's belt. The chilling message encoded in this architecture is one of a guaranteed afterlife. The ancient Egyptians did not simply hope for immortality, they engineered it. They built a machine for the soul, a cosmic launchpad where the pharaoh's spirit would ascend through these stone channels, riding a beam of starlight to join the eternal, undying gods. The pyramid was never just a tomb. It was a vehicle, a resonant device designed to project consciousness across the cosmos. This reveals an obsession with eternity so profound that it mobilized an entire civilization, driving them to achieve architectural perfection in service of a single, transcendent journey. The shafts are literal stargates, proof of a sophisticated astronomy used not for farming or navigation, but for charting the ultimate human voyage. If the very stones were angled to guide a soul to the stars, what other sacred sites were designed as portals, their silent chambers waiting to activate a spiritual transition we can no longer perceive? The unified gaze of 8,000 terracotta soldiers stares into the darkness of a sealed tomb. Each warrior in the mausoleum of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, possesses a unique face, an individual expression frozen in clay for over 2,000 years. They stand in perfect battle formation, a subterranean legion guarding their ruler for eternity. Emperor Qin was a man consumed by a paradox. He unified China, standardized its writing and laws, and began the Great Wall, yet he was terrified of death. He dispatched alchemists on futile quests for elixirs of immortality, desperately seeking a way to avoid the one fate no amount of power could change. This colossal army was his final, grand solution, an attempt to carry his authority into the next world. And yet, the most chilling message of this silent host is its profound failure. Despite the unimaginable resources poured into this project, despite the unique face of every single soldier crafted to serve him forever, Qin Shi Huang still died. His Qin dynasty, which he believed would last 10,000 generations, collapsed into chaos mere years after his death, overthrown by the very people he had conquered. The Terracotta Army, therefore, is not a monument to eternal power, but to its absolute limit. It is a breathtakingly elaborate confession of fear, a permanent stone-based admission that even the most powerful human being must ultimately surrender. The soldiers do not guard an immortal emperor, they stand vigil over a universal truth that all ambition, no matter how grand, eventually returns to dust. This theme echoes in the pyramids of Giza and the tombs of Mayan kings, all vast constructions built by rulers who tried to build bridges across an impassable river. They all whisper the same unsettling question: if an emperor who commanded the lives of millions could not command his own mortality, what does that say about the ultimate purpose of our own striving and the legacies we hope to leave behind? A cosmic tug-of-war is frozen in stone along the walls of Angkor Wat. Gods on one side, demons on the other, they coil a massive serpent around a central mountain, churning a primordial ocean. This is the churning of the ocean of milk, a myth carved with breathtaking detail, but to the Khmer Empire this was far more than a religious story. It was the operating manual for the universe, and they built their entire kingdom as its physical reflection. The temple's central towers are not just spires, they are Mount Meru, the axis of the world. The surrounding moat is the cosmic ocean itself. Every step through the complex was a journey through a divine blueprint. The chilling message here is one of total cosmic responsibility. The king was not just a ruler, he was a diva, a god-king whose primary duty was to maintain the precarious balance between order and chaos. The entire civilization was an engine designed to participate in this eternal struggle, to keep the world turning by replicating the actions of the gods. The elixir of immortality they sought was not just a potion, it was the continued existence of their world, a state of harmony that required constant, monumental effort. This reveals a terrifying burden of power. The empire's staggering agricultural projects, its vast infrastructure, and its immense temples were all part of this cosmic maintenance. If the king failed in his ritual duties, if the balance tipped toward chaos, the entire kingdom could face drought, famine, and collapse. Angkor Wat, therefore, is a permanent stone-based warning about the fragility of civilization and the immense spiritual cost of keeping chaos at bay. It forces us to look at other ancient sites with new eyes. Are the pyramids not also a model of the cosmos, a pharaoh's machine for maintaining Mot, or divine order? Is the serpent slithering down Kukulkan's pyramid not a similar representation of a balanced cosmos in motion? The Khmer did not just believe in a myth, they built the myth around them, living inside its logic until the very stones whispered its principles. How many other empires have constructed their capitals as literal heavens on earth, only to discover that when the belief in that cosmic order fades, the stones are all that remain? The ghost city of Mohenjo-Daro rises from the Indus Valley Plains, a metropolis of silent, orderly streets. Built over 4,000 years ago, its layout is a marvel of foresight, a perfect grid of wide thoroughfares and uniform mud bricks that speaks of a society governed by logic and consensus, not by the whims of a pharaoh or king. This was one of the world's first major cities, equipped with a sophisticated drainage system, public baths, and granaries that suggest a highly organized and seemingly peaceful civilization. Yet the most chilling message of this ancient grid is not found in its construction, but in its quiet, empty courtyards. Around 1900 years before the Common Era, this bustling center of trade and culture was completely abandoned. The people of Mohenjo-Daro did not leave behind grand tombs filled with treasure or temples etched with warnings. They simply walked away, leaving a perfectly functional city to the dust. Their written language, a script found on thousands of small seals, remains completely undeciphered to this day. This means their own story, their reasons for leaving, their laws, and their beliefs are permanently locked away. The silence is profound. Was it a slow, grinding decline caused by a shifting river that crippled their agriculture? Or was it a more rapid ecological catastrophe that rendered the land uninhabitable? The city's meticulous planning could not save it from an unknown pressure. This abandonment serves as a stark, sobering warning. Mohenjo-Daro demonstrates that even the most advanced, rational, and peaceful urban civilizations are not immune to collapse. Its grid pattern, so familiar to our modern eyes, is a haunting blueprint of a society that achieved remarkable stability, only to vanish without a whisper of explanation. How many of our own gleaming cities, with their complex infrastructures and orderly designs, could one day become similar puzzles for a future civilization to ponder, their success ultimately no match for a changing world they failed to anticipate? 11,000 stones stand in eerie, parallel rows along the coast of Brittany, a forest of granite erected long before the first stone was set at Stonehenge. The Carnac alignments stretch for miles, a silent army of monoliths whose purpose has baffled observers for centuries. Local folklore offers a magical explanation that they are the petrified remains of a Roman legion, frozen in place by the wizard Merlin. Yet the truth encoded in this vast geometry is far more profound than any myth. Researcher Pierre Mero proposed that these stones are not randomly placed. He documented how specific lines of menhirs point directly to the moon's most extreme rising and setting positions on the horizon, events that occur only every 18.6 years. This suggests the site was a sophisticated lunar observatory, its scale dwarfing any other known from the Neolithic world. But the alignments may hold an even deeper secret, one you can feel rather than see. The granite itself is piezoelectric, meaning it generates a subtle electrical charge under mechanical stress, such as the constant pressure of the earth beneath it. Some researchers hypothesize that the stones were placed along powerful telluric currents, underground flows of electrical energy that course through the planet's crust. In this light, the Carnac alignments transform from a simple calendar into a massive energy grid, a network of stones designed to interact with the very pulse of the Earth. The chilling message here is not about celestial prediction alone, but about a lost harmony. The builders of Carnac possessed a deep, intuitive connection to the planet's natural forces, viewing the Earth not as a resource to be exploited, but as a living entity whose energies they could map, measure, and perhaps even commune with. They understood a language of the land that we have largely forgotten, a sensory knowledge that allowed them to build in resonance with the world rather than in dominance over it. What profound secrets of the natural world did they grasp? Secrets that allowed them to engineer landscapes on a colossal scale to harness powers we can now only faintly detect with our most advanced instruments. A simple clay jar, no larger than a hand, sits quietly in a museum. It looks unremarkable, a common artifact from the Parthian period of Mesopotamia, dated to around 200 years before the Common Era. But inside this jar rests a copper cylinder sealed with asphalt, and within that cylinder, an iron rod. It is a collection of mundane parts, yet together they form a puzzle that has divided archaeologists for decades. When filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, this assembly becomes a primitive but functional galvanic cell, capable of producing a little over 1 volt of electricity. It was German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig who first looked at this collection of objects and saw not a storage vessel for scrolls or spices, but a battery. If he was correct, the chilling message is not about the power it generated, but about the shadow it casts across our entire history of innovation. This suggests that a practical understanding of electrochemistry existed 2,000 years ago, a knowledge that could have been used for electroplating gold onto silver, or perhaps for creating tingling sensations in religious rituals, giving a physical jolt to the presence of a god. The true weight of this object lies in its defiance of our linear narrative of progress. We imagine technology as a straight line from simple to complex, but the Baghdad battery, as it is known, implies that this line is a circle, or perhaps a spiral where knowledge is gained, lost entirely, and then painfully rediscovered centuries later. It forces us to look at every ancient artifact with new suspicion. What other simple objects, dismissed as toys or ritual items, are in fact the faded blueprints of a technology we thought was our own invention? The clay jar is a silent testament to the fragility of human discovery, a warning that our entire modern world is built upon a foundation that can and has crumbled into forgotten dust. A corroded lump of bronze and wood pulled from the depths of a 2,000-year-old shipwreck should not contain microscopic gear teeth, yet the Antikythera Mechanism, a device the size of a small clock, is precisely that. Its intricate system of interlocking bronze gears, some with teeth cut to triangular perfection, is a physical shock to our understanding of the ancient world. This was not a simple calendar. It was a portable cosmos made of metal, a machine that could calculate the positions of the sun, the moon, and known planets with astonishing accuracy. It predicted lunar and solar eclipses, and even tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. The level of mechanical engineering required to design and build such a device would not be seen again until the sophisticated astronomical clocks of 14th century Europe. The chilling message of the Antikythera Mechanism is not merely its existence, but the intellectual world it implies. This object did not emerge from a vacuum. It is the product of a sophisticated Hellenistic scientific tradition, a school of thought where astronomy, mathematics, and precision engineering were seamlessly intertwined. Its very complexity suggests a lineage, a series of prototypes and refinements that have been utterly lost to history. We are left with a single, miraculous survivor, a corroded ghost of a technology that should not have been possible for another 1,000 years. This forces a humbling realization. The march of human knowledge is not a steady, upward climb. It is a landscape of towering peaks and profound valleys, where entire libraries of technical understanding can be erased by the slow decay of time or the sudden violence of war. The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a silent witness to a golden age of science we can only glimpse through its fractured gears. How many other devices of similar or greater complexity were melted down for their bronze, or simply crumbled to dust, taking their revolutionary secrets with them? What other foundational pillars of our own modern world are merely rediscoveries of principles that ancient minds had already mastered and then tragically lost? A book of impossible botany rests in a vault at Yale University, its pages a gallery of flora that has never grown on this earth. This is the Voynich Manuscript, a 240-page codex filled with delicate illustrations of unidentifiable plants, astrological diagrams, and countless naked women bathing in strange, interconnected pools of green liquid. Its text is written in an unknown alphabet, a flowing script of elegant, nonsensical characters that has resisted every attempt at decryption by the world's top codebreakers, from wartime cryptographers to advanced artificial intelligence. We know the book is old, carbon dated to the early 15th century, but its author, its language, and its purpose remain absolute enigmas. Is it an elaborate, meaningless hoax designed to dupe a wealthy patron, a coded herbal containing lost medicinal secrets, or perhaps a treatise on alchemical processes with the bathing nymphs representing a spiritual transformation? The chilling message of the Voynich manuscript is not locked within its possible meaning. The true weight of this book lies in its silent, persistent defiance. For over a century, it has stared back at our most brilliant analytical minds and offered nothing but more questions. It is a permanent monument to the ultimate limit of human understanding, a physical object that proves some doors to the past may remain forever closed. In an age where we believe we can unravel any mystery with enough data and processing power, the Voynich manuscript is a deeply humbling artifact. It reminds us that history is not a puzzle to be completely solved, but a vast, dark ocean where islands of knowledge are separated by abysses of permanent silence. Our inability to decode its pages forces a profound question. If a book we can hold in our hands, a thing of ink and vellum, can guard its secrets so perfectly for 600 years, how much more of the human story has vanished without a single trace, leaving behind not even a riddle for us to ponder? 15 stones defy every tool you could bring to them. At the Inca fortress of Sacsayhuamán, perched high above the city of Cusco, colossal blocks of limestone, some weighing over 100 tons, are locked together in a zigzagging wall. Their edges are not straight, but a complex puzzle of interlocking angles, each face uniquely carved to fit its neighbor with a perfection that seems to deny the very nature of stone. You cannot force the thinnest blade of a razor into the seams. This is not simple masonry, it is a form of stone weaving, as if the rock itself became pliable. The sheer effort is staggering, a testament to an entire society mobilized to cut, transport, and lift these giants without the wheel, without iron tools, without any draft animal stronger than a llama. The communal force required speaks of a culture unified by a powerful, shared purpose, capable of moving mountains literally and figuratively. Yet the how remains one of history's most tantalizing riddles. How did they achieve such impossible precision with only stone hammers and bronze chisels? Some researchers point to a radical possibility, a lost technique where plant extracts were used to soften the stone's surface, allowing artisans to mold the blocks like clay before they hardened again into their final, unbreakable embrace. Whether through a forgotten chemical process or an almost superhuman skill, the chilling message of Sacsayhuamán is one of dual loss. It showcases the absolute peak of Inca engineering, a mastery over their environment so complete they could make stone behave like liquid. But this very perfection is also a monument to a devastating rupture. The knowledge required to build it died with the empire's collapse under Spanish conquest. The techniques were not written down, they were lived, passed from master to apprentice in an unbroken chain that was violently severed. These seamless walls, therefore, are not just a fortress. They are a silent, sobering testament to the fragility of human knowledge itself. We can only stand before them and wonder how many other ways of seeing the world, how many other technologies that bent nature to human will, have vanished just as completely, leaving behind only impossible stones to whisper of their existence. A massive book, so heavy it takes 2 people to lift, contains a portrait of the devil himself. The Codex Gigas, created in a Bohemian monastery during the 13th century, is known as the Devil's Bible for one unforgettable reason. On a single, stark page sits a full-page illustration of the devil, a horned and clawed figure crouching in an empty landscape, his green skin and eerie stare burning a hole into the viewer's soul. The legend says a doomed monk, sentenced to be walled up alive for breaking his vows, promised to write the world's greatest book in a single night to atone for his sins. As midnight approached and the task proved impossible, he prayed not to God but to the fallen angel Lucifer, who finished the manuscript in exchange for the monk's soul and this haunting portrait. While the story is a folktale, the reality of the book is just as compelling. This single volume contains the complete Latin Vulgate Bible, historical works by Josephus, medical texts, and a calendar for tracking saints' days. The chilling message is not one of supernatural pact, but of profound psychological insight. The Codex is a physical manifestation of the medieval mind, a universe where absolute piety and the terrifying reality of sin existed side by side. It represents the eternal human struggle between the desire for sacred knowledge and the fear of damnation, bound together in one overwhelming object. This was not a book meant to glorify evil, but to confront it, to literally contain it between the same covers that held the Word of God. How many other artifacts from this era force us to look into this same internal conflict? Cathedral gargoyles perched on holy ground twist their demonic faces toward the heavens. Elaborate paintings of the Last Judgment depict the bliss of the saved right next to the graphic torments of the damned. These creations are not contradictions. They are a unified philosophy carved in stone and ink, acknowledging that the path to salvation is walked in the shadow of perpetual temptation. The Devil's Bible is a mirror reflecting a timeless truth about our own nature. We build libraries of sacred knowledge, yet we must always leave space for the portrait of our own fears, a permanent reminder of the darkness we must overcome to reach the light. A perfectly accurate coastline hides in plain sight on a map drawn in 1513. The Piri Reis map, created by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, is a stunning artifact of early modern exploration, detailing the coasts of Europe, Africa, and the newly discovered Americas. Yet its most baffling feature lies far to the south, a landmass that should not exist on any chart for another 300 years. The map shows a detailed, ice-free coastline for the continent of Antarctica. Admiral Reis himself wrote that he compiled his work from 20 older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, referencing charts that were once housed in the legendary Library of Alexandria before its destruction. The chilling message is not that Reis possessed supernatural knowledge, but that he was copying from a far older, global cartographic tradition. The map suggests that a pre-classical civilization, possessing advanced seafaring technology, had mapped the entire world, including Antarctica, at a time when its shores were not locked in ice. This points to a window of time thousands of years ago, during a warm period in Earth's climate, when the Antarctic coast was visible and navigable. The implications shatter our standard history books. It means that ancient mariners, whose very names are lost to us, may have undertaken voyages across the globe, charting continents we believe were undiscovered until the age of European explorers. Their knowledge, preserved on fragile scrolls and maps, was then scattered and burned, a catastrophic loss of geographic truth consumed in the fires of great libraries. This single piece of vellum forces us to ask a humbling question. How much of what we call discovery is actually just rediscovery? What other cartographic anomalies, tucked away in forgotten archives, hold the ghostly outlines of lands and seas that a lost civilization once knew intimately? Deep within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, a stone panel shows a strange and captivating scene. A giant, elongated object resembling a glass bulb tapers to a point. Inside, a snake stretches the entire length, its head touching the tip. This form is held aloft by a priest, and a cable seems to run from its base to a box upon which a baboon god sits. To the modern eye, this is an unmistakable image, an ancient Egyptian light bulb. It is a powerful and seductive idea, suggesting the pharaohs might have harnessed electricity to illuminate their deepest tombs. Yet Egyptologists offer a very different translation. They see a lotus flower, the symbol of creation, from which a serpent is emerging. This is the Djed pillar, a representation of stability, and the snake is the god Harsomptus, symbolizing the dawn sun being born anew each morning. The so-called cable is a lotus stem, and the box is the birth shrine itself. The chilling message of the Dendera relief is not about lost electrical technology, but about the powerful trick our own minds play on us. This phenomenon is called pareidolia, the human brain's instinctive urge to find familiar patterns in ambiguous shapes, to see a face in the moon or a message in random static. We look at this ancient carving through the lens of our own technologically saturated world, and we immediately see what we know, a light bulb. We project our own reality onto their symbolic language, creating a compelling but likely false narrative. The vast cultural gap between our time and theirs becomes a chasm we try to bridge with our own inventions. This forces a profound question that echoes beyond this single temple wall. How many other ancient symbols, from the Baghdad battery to the Antikythera mechanism, are we misreading because we cannot set aside our modern biases? The Dendera relief stands as a permanent warning, reminding us that the past does not speak our language. It speaks in symbols, myths, and a world so fundamentally different from our own that we must first learn to quiet our own assumptions before we can even begin to hear its true voice. Off the coast of Japan, the ocean floor holds a structure that defies simple explanation. The Yonaguni Monument is a sprawling complex of massive sandstone blocks, with sharp, 90-degree angles, perfect steps, and what appear to be wide terraces and plazas, all lying under 100 feet of water. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura has spent decades studying the site, and he points to features that seem impossibly man-made: a colossal archway, what looks like a stadium, and a pyramid-like structure all carved from the living rock. The chilling message here is not just in its debated origin, but in its undeniable location. This monument, whether shaped by nature or by human hands, was submerged when sea levels rose dramatically at the end of the last ice age around 10,000 years ago. If Kimura is correct, and this is the work of a prehistoric civilization, then we are looking at the sunken capital of a culture that thrived when much of the world's coastlines looked radically different. It becomes a silent, underwater graveyard, a memorial to a world erased by climate change. The debate itself is a profound part of its story. Skeptics argue that the peculiar formations are the result of natural sandstone fracturing and strong ocean currents. Yet the sheer scale and the geometric regularity of the terraces challenge a purely natural explanation. This forces a haunting question about our own historical blind spots. How much of human prehistory is currently hidden beneath the waves, lost not to war or famine, but to the slow, inexorable creep of rising oceans? The Yonaguni Monument, man-made or not, stands as a permanent warning. It is a physical testament to the fact that the planet's coastlines are not fixed, and that civilizations can be drowned, their stories silenced by the very environment they depended on. What other sprawling settlements, what other chapters of the human journey now lie submerged on continental shelves around the globe, waiting for a diver's light to reveal their sunken truths? Even the Romans, masters of engineering, built upon a foundation they could not explain. In the Lebanese city of Baalbek, the platform of the great temple of Jupiter rests upon 3 colossal blocks known as the Trilithon. Each one is a mountain of stone weighing over 800 tons, dragged from a quarry nearly a mile away and lifted over 20 feet into the air. Their sheer scale is bewildering, but the true mystery lies in their flawless placement. These megaliths are fitted together with a jeweler's precision. Their seams so tight that not a sliver of light passes between them. The Romans constructed their magnificent temple atop this base, yet they left no record of who built the platform itself or how such an impossible feat was accomplished. The chilling message of Baalbek is not about Roman ingenuity, but about the ghost of a technology that predates them. These stones are a legacy, a foundation laid by a people whose name and methods are lost to time. How could a culture without modern machinery move blocks heavier than a fully loaded jumbo jet and position them with such exactitude? The quarry nearby holds an even larger clue, the stone of the pregnant woman, a single block weighing an estimated 1,000 tons, partially cut from the bedrock and then abandoned. It is as if the builders were in the midst of an even more ambitious project and simply vanished, leaving their greatest work unfinished. This has led to theories that stretch the boundaries of history, suggesting a lost civilization with access to knowledge we can scarcely conceive, or even echoing ancient myths of a race of giants who once walked the earth. The true power of Baalbek is not in providing answers, but in framing a humbling question. What does it say about our understanding of the past when the most enduring monuments are the ones whose construction we cannot replicate even with all our modern technology? They stand as a permanent challenge to our arrogance, a silent testament that history's greatest chapters may have been written by hands we can no longer see. Scattered across the upland valleys of Laos, thousands of giant stone jars lie silent and open to the sky. Carved from solid rock, some stand as tall as a person and weigh several tons, their open mouths forming perfect circles against the earth. For centuries, these megalithic urns have guarded their secret, a funerary mystery etched across the landscape known as the Plain of Jars. Archaeologists like Julie van den Berg have pieced together a likely purpose, one that feels both practical and profoundly alien to modern sensibilities. The jars were not for storing grain or water, but for the dead. Evidence suggests they were used for excarnation, the process of exposing a body to the elements until only the bones remained. The deceased would be placed inside these massive stone vessels, allowing nature to complete its work, after which the cleaned bones could be collected for a secondary burial. This practice reveals a culture that viewed death not as an event to be hidden away, but as a slow, public, and necessary transformation, integrated directly into the world of the living. The chilling message here is not one of morbidity, but of absolute cultural isolation. This society developed a unique relationship with mortality, a set of beliefs and rituals so distinct that it has left no clear descendants and no written language to explain itself. We are left only with these hollow, waiting vessels, stone questions without answers. They force us to confront how a civilization's treatment of the dead reflects its most fundamental values. Do we, like the Egyptians, seek to preserve the body for an eternal afterlife, building pyramids as immortal machines? Or do we, like the people of the Plain of Jars, see the body as a temporary vessel itself, its dissolution a sacred step in a greater cycle? These silent jars hold up a mirror, asking us what our own burial customs say about our fears, our beliefs, and what we truly think happens when our final breath is gone. A granite monument in rural Georgia offered 10 commandments for a future it would never see. Erected in 1980 by a mysterious individual or group under the pseudonym R. C. Christian, the Georgia Guidestone stood as a stark, modern anomaly. Its 4 massive slabs, oriented to track the sun and stars, were inscribed with a set of guidelines in 8 of the world's most prominent languages. The first and most controversial directive called for maintaining humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Other precepts advocated for guiding reproduction wisely, unifying humanity with a new global language, and avoiding petty truths and useless officials. This was not a relic from a forgotten age. It was a deliberate 20th century attempt to carve a prescriptive vision for civilization directly into stone, an urgent blueprint for survival addressed to a post-catastrophe world. The chilling message was its cool, rational tone in the face of potential annihilation, proposing a managed, sustainable future that many found unsettlingly clinical. The monument's own fate, however, provides the final, crucial layer to its story. It became a flashpoint for conspiracy and controversy, viewed by some as a roadmap to a dystopian new world order. In July of 2022, it was severely damaged in a bombing and was later fully dismantled, its fragments carted away. This cycle of creation and destruction completes its modern parable. The Georgia Guidestones prove that the ancient impulse to speak to the future through stone is not a dead tradition. It is a living and deeply contentious human endeavor. The same tensions that surrounded the prophecies at Chichen Itza or the warnings of Easter Island played out in a Georgia field, demonstrating that the act of carving a permanent message is always an act of interpretation, one that future generations may accept, reject, or ultimately destroy. What does it say about our own era that our most famous modern stone message was considered so threatening it had to be erased from the earth? These patterns carved in stone reveal a startling unity of human thought. From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Cambodia, across a span of more than 10,000 years, the same fundamental themes echo again and again. The silent dread of mortality that drove Qin Shi Huang to build his terracotta army is the same force that inspired the Great Pyramids of Giza. The cosmic responsibility carved into the walls of Angkor Wat mirrors the celestial alignment of the Sphinx, both speaking to a deep need to find our place within a vast and orderly universe. The desperate plea for water etched into the Nazca Desert finds its grim answer in the ecological collapse memorialized on Easter Island, a universal warning about the consequences of breaking our bond with nature. Even the pursuit of knowledge, so perfectly encapsulated in the intricate gears of the Antikythera Mechanism, and so painfully lost in the unreadable script of Rongorongo, highlights our timeless struggle to preserve wisdom against the relentless tide of forgetting. This is not a collection of isolated mysteries. It is a single, continuous conversation. These monuments are all answers to the same enduring questions. Who are we? Why are we here? How do we survive? How do we live with power? And what awaits us after death? The methods of answering varied with the culture, a pyramid here, a geoglyph there, a terracotta soldier or a stone jar. But the underlying drivers, the core human anxieties and aspirations, are hauntingly familiar. This thematic unity forces a humbling realization about our own modern condition. We may have smartphones and space telescopes, but we are still building. Our skyscrapers still reach for the heavens, our data centers are new libraries of Alexandria, and our own warnings about climate change are simply a high-tech version of the Nazca prayer for rain or the Moai's lesson in resource depletion. Our tools have changed, but our souls have not. We are still the same species, looking at the stars and wondering, fearing the dark, and trying to carve something, anything that will outlast our brief lives. So what do we gain from listening to this ancient dialogue? It offers us a profound sense of context. We are not the first to face potential catastrophe or to grapple with the limits of our power. We are simply the latest participants in a conversation that spans all of human history. By understanding that our deepest fears and highest hopes are not new, we can approach our own challenges not with panic, but with the long-term perspective of those who carved their wisdom in stone. These messages are a gift from our collective past, a reminder that we have been here before, in spirit if not in circumstance, and that the very act of trying to speak to the future is an act of profound hope. Our journey through these 22 chilling messages reveals that ancient monuments are far more than inert stone. They are active participants in a conversation across thousands of years, a dialogue about the perils of power, the fragility of our environment, and the timeless human yearning for meaning. These stones warn us of the self-inflicted collapse that doomed Easter Island. They humble us with technologies like the Antikythera Mechanism, reminding us that progress is not a straight line and that entire libraries of knowledge can vanish. They inspire us with their cosmic ambitions, from the star shafts of the Great Pyramid to the celestial balance of Angkor, proving that our ancestors looked at the heavens with the same wonder we do today. The ultimate takeaway is that history is not a closed book, but a living puzzle where every piece we uncover forces us to question our assumptions about the past and our trajectory for the future. The philosopher George Santayana's famous warning echoes through these ruins, that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. The silent plea from the Nazca Desert, the grim lesson of the toppled Moai, the unfinished block at Baalbek, all whisper the same urgent truth. They urge us to look deeper, to learn from their triumphs and their profound failures. Let these ancient whispers guide us toward a more thoughtful and sustainable future. If these revelations have captivated you, consider subscribing for more journeys into history's greatest enigmas. And we would love to hear from you. Which of these 22 messages chilled you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below.